essentially down by 5%. We're down over 16%. Dow at the same time has fallen about 18%. The stock market is now down 21%.
In 2008, millions of people woke up to the same nightmare. Their savings were disappearing. Banks were collapsing. Entire careers vanished almost overnight.
Let's talk about the speed with which we are watching this market deteriorate. We're red everywhere.
Because we're now down 43%.
What in the world is happening on Wall Street?
Two-year note yields went from 190 to 166 in the blink of an eye.
The NASDAQ, everything and more has been completely wiped out.
Because for the first time in decades, the system itself no longer looked stable. People trusted banks. They trusted markets. They trusted the idea that someone, somewhere, was still in control. But behind closed doors, governments were scrambling, emergency meetings, late-night phone calls, executives rushing through Manhattan buildings while the global economy began falling apart around them. And somewhere inside the chaos, one company kept quietly appearing in the background. Not in headlines, not on magazine covers, but inside the rooms where the damage was being measured. A company most people had never heard of, BlackRock. At the time, it wasn't a household name. It didn't make phones. It didn't build cars. Most people couldn't even explain what the company actually did. And yet, when the financial world started collapsing, some of the most powerful institutions on Earth turned to BlackRock for help. That moment changed everything, because after 2008, BlackRock didn't just survive the crisis, it became deeply connected to the modern financial system itself. And today, whether people realize it or not, their lives are likely connected to it too. The strange thing about BlackRock is how invisible it feels. People recognize billionaire names instantly: Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett. But BlackRock rarely enters public conversation, which is strange, because the company manages more money than almost any financial institution in modern history. Over $10 trillion in assets. Now, technically, BlackRock doesn't own all of that money. Most of it belongs to ordinary investors, retirement accounts, pension funds, governments, institutions. But managing money at that scale creates something else: influence. And influence inside finance can quietly become power. The company was founded in 1988 by Larry Fink and several Wall Street executives. At the time, it looked like just another investment firm, but Larry Fink had experienced something on Wall Street that changed the way he saw finance forever. Earlier in his career, a bad prediction reportedly cost his firm close to $100 million, and the experience exposed something dangerous. Modern finance had become too complex for instinct alone. Nobody truly understood the risks hiding inside the system anymore. So BlackRock focused on one thing above everything else: understanding risk better than anyone else. And over time, that obsession slowly transformed the company into something much larger than a normal investment firm. During the 1990s and early 2000s, millions of ordinary people started investing for the future. Retirement accounts, index funds, pensions, ETFs. For most people, the process felt invisible. Money quietly moved from paychecks into the market every month. And behind the scenes, a huge portion of that money started flowing through the same handful of financial giants. BlackRock became one of the largest, not by buying entire companies outright, but by quietly holding small stakes across thousands of them: Apple, Microsoft, Google, Coca-Cola, major banks, airlines, energy companies. Not enough to control these companies directly, but enough to become deeply connected to almost every part of the economy. And then BlackRock built something even more important: a system called Aladdin. Officially, Aladdin is a risk management platform, but over time, it became one of the most influential systems in global finance. Large banks used it, insurance companies used it, pension funds used it. By some estimates, systems connected to Aladdin help monitor risk tied to tens of trillions of dollars globally. And this is where the story starts becoming unsettling. Because finance no longer looked like humans making decisions in crowded rooms. It started looking like giant invisible systems analyzing the world in real time. Markets, governments, debt, panic, stability. Everything connected, and somewhere behind the screens. BlackRock's systems became part of how institutions interpreted financial reality itself. Not controlling markets, but helping major players understand them, which at a certain scale can become almost as important. Then came 2008. Lehman Brothers collapsed. Credit markets froze. Panic spread through the global economy faster than anyone expected. And while millions of people feared losing their homes, another crisis was unfolding behind the scenes. Nobody knew how much toxic debt still existed inside the system. Banks stopped trusting each other because nobody knew who was hiding the damage. That's when the US government turned to BlackRock.
Not because the company was famous, but because BlackRock had spent years building systems designed to understand financial risk at enormous scale. Suddenly, a private investment firm was helping analyze the wreckage of the global economy itself. And after the crisis, BlackRock emerged even larger than before. Then it happened again. In 2020, the world shut down. Markets crashed, businesses collapsed, fear spread everywhere, and once again, BlackRock quietly appeared near the center of the response. The Federal Reserve selected BlackRock to help manage portions of emergency corporate bond buying programs during the pandemic. To most people, that detail meant nothing, but to others, it raised an uncomfortable question. At what point does a financial institution stop being just another company and start becoming part of the system itself? Because every major crisis seemed to produce the same outcome. BlackRock became more important afterward, not through conspiracy, not through secret takeovers, but because modern finance had become so massive, so interconnected, that governments increasingly relied on institutions already sitting at the center of it. Most people still imagine ownership the old way, one powerful person, one giant company. But modern finance doesn't really work like that anymore. Today, massive investment firms hold partial ownership across huge portions of the global economy simultaneously. The same institutional investors appear repeatedly across technology companies, banks, media corporations, pharmaceutical firms, energy companies. And BlackRock is almost always somewhere in the background, not as a hidden ruler controlling everything, but as part of an enormous financial web few people fully understand. And maybe that's what unsettles people most, not one company alone, but the realization that the modern financial system has become too interconnected to visualize clearly anymore. The same firms helping manage retirement accounts also influence corporate voting, housing investments, infrastructure, debt markets. The lines between Wall Street, government, technology, and global finance started blending together, quietly, slowly, until the system itself became difficult to separate from the institutions operating inside it. Quiet billionaires. The people shaping the future are often the ones nobody notices.